Well, I'm very pleased with the victory. We've been on the road for 3 straight games at Pittsburgh, at Wake Forest, at Duke. We had a very nice road win at Pitt, then struggled mightily in the second half of both the Wake Forest and Duke games. I thought today we played pretty hard and pretty well, and we shot excellent free throws down the stretch. We made our last 13 free throws, and that's something we haven't been doing. But you got to give a lot of credit to Boston College. We built up a nice lead, and then they came roaring back. They're an outstanding shooting team. I don't know how many threes they made in the second half. Let's see. They were 7 for 13 in the second half from three. So we knew they were capable of doing that, and very fortunate that we had one more point at the end than they did.
Can you talk about your backcourt tonight? Jaquan has 23, Davon has 17. What was the plan going? Was it just to have them attack? Because the two of them were finding buckets, especially in the paint, pretty easily.
The plan is the same every day for them to play great. Those are our two veteran players from last year's Sweet 16 team, and along with Kamari Murphy, there are only 3 veterans. And the other guys are very young, very inexperienced, and I just love the way Bruce Brown has been able to step up and help us. I thought this was DeJuan Ewell's best game defensively, and then he also added 8 points offensively. So he only had 3 rebounds, but he had 3 great help defense, 3 help defensive possessions where he really stopped them from getting a layup because he rotated over and took the guy that was open, and doesn't show up in the stat sheet, but all the coaches on the sideline were saying, hey, he's playing really good defense. So not like my elementary school teammates who were here. Billy Foley, who played at LIU, he didn't play any defense. And Coach John Carey, who's in the back, he was a great point guard, but he didn't throw me the ball enough. He always asked me to throw him the ball. But these guys, my friends who went to elementary school with, John I went to high school with, he used to leave me on the bus. We would take the Q44 from the Bronx to Queens, out to Jamaica, Queens, and then have to get off and walk to school. You're nodding your head. Do you know where that is, the Q44? And then I would fall asleep on the bus, and John would get off at the right spot because he was studying on the bus. And then as the bus left, he'd bang on the window and laugh at me as it took off and went another 4 or 5 city blocks and make my walk back to school a lot longer. But
Coach, what were you thinking in the final minute there when it got so close? You guys had the game in hand, and then
I was saying I was talking to myself like my high school coach used to do, and I was praying the rosary. I said 3 Our Fathers, 3 Hail Marys, and a couple of Glory Bees. How many of you are Michelle Kaufman students? Standing room only, Michelle. So I take it this was optional?
I told them I worked it out with you to have a really close ending just to make them sweat on it.
Yeah. Like you did at Duke? Yes, question.
How did it feel to see the student section and the banners celebrating the students?
Yeah, that was great. That was a surprise to me. I didn't know that. I knew I had 600 wins because we celebrated after the Pittsburgh game, and a lot of people asked me about it, but I didn't know anything about the presentation or that jersey. They got me in the locker room just a couple of minutes before it and said, hey, Coach, you need it out on the floor. And I thought, oh, we got a problem. And I walked out there, and then they told me it was to present me with the ball. And the students were great. I love when the students are here. It just creates such a fantastic atmosphere. It's so different when they're not here because there's not that liveliness, that enthusiasm. So if you will please write in the student newspaper and all your articles, we need the students here on Saturday very early and next week very early for our game against North Carolina and Florida State.
Coach, can you talk a little bit about in those timeouts towards the end, like what you told your team at that time when the game started to get close?
We basically told them, listen, we have timeouts if we need them. if you get in any trouble at all. Run the press attack. But the most important thing is don't give them buckets. Don't let them score. Rebound their misses so that we don't have to take the ball out of bounds. But unfortunately, they hit some deep shots, some very tough threes.
Coach, after losing to Duke and Wake Forest in the second half, what do you hope that they take away from this game where a team you guys have beaten 11 straight times but gotten so close?
Well, as I was telling the TV people before the game, they asked me what the keys were. I said, well, there's two glaring things that we are working on and hopefully we'll do better. One is turnovers. We just have way too many turnovers. And you saw in the first half, we were up 15. We turned the ball over. In our last 10 possessions, we had 4 turnovers and 6 missed shots. 0 for 10 in the last 10 possessions of the first half. That's not good. And that's 40% of your possessions being turnovers. So you don't even get a shot. And the second thing was we have to make our free throws. And tonight we did. And we made them all down the stretch. Yes?
Coach, do you have any concern about points in the paint in the second half? The first half, the team gave up 10. In the second half, they gave up 24 in the paint. Do you have any concerns about that?
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like when we give up points in the paint. It's not. Defense has several components. The first is individual defense. The second is team defense, and the third is rebounding, because if they miss and get the rebound, like Carolina's #1 in the country at that. So you got to play great defense on the first shot. You got to play team defense throughout the possession. There are times we do all three exceptionally well, and that's why we get those leads. It comes really off of our defense in transition. Unfortunately, we're inconsistent. There are times we forget about team defense and we just guard our own men. Well, when you just guard an individual, there's a lot of room near the basket for them to score. Because there are a number of times at timeouts, we kept reminding them, as is an expression we use, is take away the nail. Do you know what the nail is? Do any of you know what the nail is? You do. Can you please explain to the audience?
The nail is normally, in basketball terms, where the free throw line is, and you normally want to control the nail because it's sort of the center of the half-court offense.
Do you coach anywhere?
You know, I work with the
You work with the women's team, so he knows what the nail is. So if you go to any basketball court in college basketball and you go to the foul line, the nail lines up with the rim, okay? So the rim is 15 feet away, the nail is right there in the middle, and our defense has to have a man, somebody taking away the nail so guys can't drive to the basket through the nail. And if you take that paint away, that paint touch, you had a much better chance of succeeding. But if you look, a couple of things that occurred. Connor Tavey, he had 4 points, and we told who was ever guarding him, you got to help. All right? Mo Jeffers, he ended up with 9. Whoever was guarding him, you got to help. If we give up points to them because we were helping too much, that's okay. But if you don't help off of those guys and you give Robinson, who ends up with 27, Bowman, who ends up with 10, and he's been averaging 20, and Turner gets 15, they got a great backcourt. All 3 of those guys are high-octane scorers. I hope you know what high-octane is.
Thanks.
Anybody? Bueller? You guys ready?